My name is Angela Stevens. I'm a 37-year-old housewife. I met my husband, Tom, through our parents and eventually got married. We were just an ordinary couple, or so it seemed, but lately, Tom's been acting strange. Man, the meals Angela makes are really delicious. I'm so lucky to eat such great food every day. Angela, thanks for always keeping our home in order. It gives me peace of mind and helps me focus at work. It's my day off today, so I'll take care of everything at home. Leave it to me. Angela, just relax. This has been his constant behavior lately. To an outsider, he might seem like the ideal husband, always appreciative and helpful with chores. However, this behavior started abruptly just after we celebrated our 12th wedding anniversary. His over-the-top flattery and obvious behavior struck me as odd. I had a hunch about why Tom was acting this way. Angela. My in-laws called out to me worriedly as I left the living room, ignoring Tom singing badly while doing the dishes in the kitchen. I nodded firmly at them. I can do anything to protect my family. The plan was already in motion. All that was left was to wait for Tom to make a decisive move, and soon enough, that day came. So, Angela, you're cheating on me, aren't you? Excuse me? Tom, out of the blue, accused me of cheating to justify a divorce. Here, the divorce papers, he said, thrusting them at me with a triumphant smile. I silently signed the papers, a sure smile on my face hidden from Tom. After completing the papers, I confronted him about his secret. Suddenly, he brazenly admitted, I have a child with my mistress. After we divorce, I'll live with them in my house. Despite his infidelity, he had the audacity to say this. I decided to enlighten him with the truth. Which house are you talking about? You didn't hear, did you? Huh? Tom was dumbfounded. Just seeing his foolish face made all the pent-up frustration and anger from our marriage feel lighter. Yes, it had been a long journey to this point. I married Tom when I was 25, and I quit my job to become a full-time housewife. Although no romantic feelings developed between Tom and me, a familial bond formed over time, and I naturally wanted to protect this family. Perhaps because I had lost my parents by then. They passed away from illness shortly after seeing me in my wedding dress. They left me an inheritance that meant I'd never struggle financially, but money couldn't heal the pain of losing them. The ones who comforted me the most weren't Tom but my in-laws. We think of you as our own daughter, Angela. If you ever need anything, just ask. At that time, Tom had just finished the formalities at a funeral and said, I had plans with a colleague today. I'm good to go, right? And left promptly. His parents were outraged by such behavior, but they had known about his selfishness since his newlywed days, so I wasn't too surprised or disappointed. Gradually, I started getting closer to my in-laws, initially hesitant, but then more naturally. We would go out together, visit their home often, even stay over sometimes. This didn't sit well with Tom. Angela seems happier with my parents than with me. He would sulk like a child, saying such a thing. He would lock himself in his room until I apologized. To be honest, it was pretty troublesome. Tom seemed annoyed that I, at times, prioritized his parents over him. I never felt like I was favoring one over the other, but eventually, Tom must have said something because the invitations for my in-laws decreased. We don't want to intrude on your precious time as a couple, my mother-in-law would say sadly. But Tom often left me alone to go out. Because he's a man of many hobbies. I found it more worthwhile to study for a qualification than spend time with him. So, in a way, our marriage was smoothly drifting apart. Then one day, my father-in-law called to say my mother-in-law had been in a traffic accident. She was okay, but needed some assistance in daily life. Hey, Dad's getting on in years, and it must be tough for him to help Mom by himself, right? How about we move in together? Tom suggested we move in with them. And I agreed, concerned about their well-being. Living together brought us even closer, both physically and emotionally. I took care of her during the day, and my father-in-law, still working, would take over at night. Neighbors joked we were like a real family. This also highlighted Tom's absence in caregiving. Despite suggesting the move, he never helped. He avoided even the slightest tasks. Whenever I asked, he'd dodge, claiming Mom would prefer it if you did it. Then, one day, Tom's attitude changed dramatically. It was the start of what I call the flattery festival. I listened to his praises with a detached heart. Before long, that day arrived. That night, he stopped me. "Can we talk?" We sat facing each other on the sofa. "What's up?" I asked. After some feigned hesitation, he blurted out. "Look, Angela, are you cheating on me?" "Excuse me?" I was taken aback by this unexpected accusation. Unperturbed, he rapidly continued. "That reaction. So, it is true, huh? How could you cheat? Why would you do that? If you had any problems with me, you could have just said so," Tom said, holding his head, putting on an act as a husband betrayed by his wife. "What is this?" I was astounded. Tom's scheme was all too obvious. His recent, blatantly obvious flattery was just a ploy to make himself appear as a grateful husband now turned into a victim of infidelity. But if he thought such a transparent and sloppy act would cover up his own actions, he's seriously mistaken. I just looked down at him, silent. This unexpected turn didn't really affect my plan. So, what to do now? Tom's poor acting continued. "But maybe I did something wrong too. I apologize for that. Staying with me, Angela probably won't be happy. Thinking of your happiness, I've made this decision." He said this in a self-righteous tone and pulled out a divorce paper. "Here, this is the divorce paper." His smug grin was barely concealed. "If it's an act, at least do it properly." I looked at Tom with half-closed eyes. He was presenting the divorce paper under the pretense of considering my feelings. Maybe for Tom, this was quite a well-thought-out strategy. Or perhaps, it wasn't his idea. Someone else's suggestion? Still, the performance was too wooden and pitiable. "All right," I said, without arguing or making excuses, and started signing the divorce paper. Tom looked bewildered. The mask had fallen off. Or should I say, his true colors. Regardless of whether I had cheated or not, Tom was probably planning to insist on my infidelity and push for divorce. Thinking back, I had never openly defied Tom since our marriage. Did he see me as a weak-willed and easily swayed person? Such a shallow thought. After completing the paper, I said, "I'll take care of this." Then, I looked straight at Tom. He froze under my gaze. I began, "By the way. Why did you think I was cheating?" "What?" Tom looked puzzled for a moment, then reverted to a more assertive tone. "That's because I saw you secretly meeting an unknown man the other day." "The other day? When exactly?" "The other day means the other day. About a week ago." "What time are you talking about? Approximately 1 week ago." "The other day means just that, the other day. Let's see, it was around 3 a.m., I think. Yeah, you entered a cafe near the station, right? I saw it with my own eyes." Hearing Tom's words, I was sure there was no lie in his statement. Indeed, one afternoon a week ago, I did meet someone. Tom must have seen this and conveniently used it as a pretext for divorce. "You don't usually have field work for your job, do you? Were you out of the office during work hours that day?" "Well, that day, I just happened to be outside." "Oh really? I thought maybe you were skipping work to meet your mistress." Considering your work schedule at the office, any lie would be easily exposed. You should have thought that setting through. "What did you say?" I could clearly see which of my words unsettled Tom. I let out a light laugh. "Didn't you hear? I said you might have been cheating, meeting your mistress instead of working. You're having an affair, aren't you?" My accusation made Tom's eyes widen. Then he retorted as if he had just realized something. "What are you talking about? You're the one cheating, aren't you? I saw it clearly with my own eyes. You were going into a cafe with another man. Is that all you have to conclude I'm cheating? That person was just an acquaintance. I'm not having an affair." "Shut up. Even though you have a husband, meeting with an unknown man alone, that's already cheating." "What?" I let out an incredulous "what" in response to Tom's claim. It made no sense. What era or world was he talking about? "Besides, you signed the divorce papers. That means you admitted to cheating, right?" "That's not true. How can I admit to something I never did? I signed the divorce papers simply because I wanted to divorce you too." "Huh?" Tom was taken aback by my unexpected rebuttal, his eyes wide open in shock. The look on his face said he never dreamed that I, his wife, would want to divorce him. I stood up, left the living room for a moment. I went to my room and took documents from the chest next to my bed, then returned to the living room. This is irrefutable evidence of your affair. I turned the envelope upside down, spilling its contents onto the coffee table. They were photos. Photos of Tom with a flashy dressed woman and a little boy who resembled him. To anyone unaware, they might seem like happy family photos. But there was more. Among the photos were pictures of Tom and the woman, arm in arm, entering a certain hotel. What? Tom's lips quivered at the sight of the numerous photos. Never thought you'd not only have an affair but also a child. With a sigh, I compared Tom to the photos. It was not me, but my father-in-law, who first noticed Tom's affair. Angela, can we talk for a sec? It seems like Tom might be having an affair. He said to me, sounding apologetic, making me feel sorry too. After hiring a detective agency, Tom's infidelity was confirmed. And it was more than just an affair, he had a child with his mistress. Realizing that this affair wasn't something recent, I was astonished. My in-laws, aware of this fact, condemned Tom's disloyalty and showed concern for me. Angela, you should divorce such a man. As much as he's my son, I'm ashamed. That's right. You don't have to endure this, Angela. If you divorce, we'll handle the aftermath. I nodded gratefully to their kind offer. Thank you. I, too, have been thinking about divorcing Tom. But I can't just leave it to you two. Could we possibly fight this together? So, my in-laws and I began a plan to teach Tom a lesson. I coldly addressed Tom, who was stunned by the scattered photos. So, you're planning to marry your mistress and move in here with your new family of 3 as soon as we're divorced, right? I heard your loud conversation at the cafe, recorded by the detective. He's really careless. I pulled out a voice recorder and played the conversation recorded at the cafe. Hey, Tom, when can we get married? Sally. I'm trying my best, but it's tough. It'd be easier if she cheated. Really? Hey, maybe we should set her up with a guy? I know just the right one. Come on, that's the last resort. Really? Anyway, I'm tired of that cramped apartment. Our son is so energetic, it's hard to handle. Did you leave him at your parents' today? Yeah. Mom was nagging me, telling me to stop wandering around and leaving the kid. I wish my parents would just die first. Everything would be smoother. It's so frustrating. Hearing this unbearable conversation, Tom looked up and exclaimed, "Fine. I've been having an affair. Are you happy now?" You admit it quite easily. The divorce is decided. It's pointless to hide it anymore. I'm going to marry my precious girlfriend and become a real family. The child is indeed mine, and we've planned to live together in my house after the divorce. And what about your parents? I'll send them to a facility or something. They have enough money for their old age. Too bad for you, huh? What? You must have been cozying up to them for the inheritance, right? Sorry, but their savings will go to the facility, and this house will be mine. What a waste of 10 years caring for them. As a housewife, you'll struggle without me. Tom sneered with an ugly expression. If this is his true nature, then hiding this hideous side was his only commendable act. But that won't change the fact of our divorce. I decided to bring Tom back to reality. By the way, Tom. What? You keep saying you'll live in my house. Which house are you talking about? Huh? At my question, Tom seemed confused about what I meant. What are you talking about? My house is my house. I'm talking about this family home. But this house belongs to your father and mother, right? That's what I mean. Once we put them in a facility, it becomes mine as inheritance. I'm their son, so I have the right, right? Tom answered irritably. I couldn't help but smile slightly. Really? You haven't heard anything at all. What? What's going on? This house is going to be demolished soon. What? Tom was utterly baffled by my words. His expression was amusing. This house will soon be torn down and turned into an empty lot. So, the house you were planning to live in with your mistress and child doesn't exist. What? I didn't know about this. Tom's voice echoed in shock. And to his "I didn't know," someone replied. That's not true, I told you clearly. What? Dad. Appearing in the living room were my father-in-law and mother-in-law in their night clothes. Both of them looked at Tom with utter disdain. Their gaze was so cold, it was hard to believe it was directed towards their own flesh and blood. "Hey, Dad! What's this about demolishing the house? What's to say? This foolish son of ours." Tom flinched at his father's angry shout. I, too, was startled by my father-in-law's loud voice, a first for me. My usually stooped, frail-looking in-laws stood tall, staring down at my husband. They looked grand and dependable. "A man who cheats on his wife like you. Aren't you ashamed as a man, no, as a human being? But, I mean, not just that. You never help Angela or us, always loafing around or escaping on your days off. As for the house, I told you clearly. It's going to be gone soon, so you should start looking for a new place. But you were too busy with your mistress on your phone, just nodding along. That doesn't count as telling me. And why suddenly demolish the house? There's no need, right? If the house is gone, what will happen to you guys?" To hear such concern from the one who planned to kick us out. My father-in-law snorted, and Tom groaned in frustration. Then, he glared at me. You must have put them up to this, right? Dragging my parents into our marital issues, how low can you go? The one who's low is you!" exclaimed my mother-in-law, standing with support from my father-in-law. I hurriedly took her hand and seated her beside me. "This house was getting old, and we had been planning to demolish it and sell the land soon. Angela has been helping us with this for a long time. Why are you consulting Angela? She's just a stay-at-home wife, right? Angela is not just any housewife." At this, my father-in-law gave me a nod, signaling it was okay to reveal the truth. "You might not know this, but Angela inherited her late parents' estate, which includes managing several properties. She's been studying to handle this estate efficiently and even has several professional qualifications. As part of that, she's been advising us too." "What?" Tom's face showed shock for what seemed like the umpteenth time today. He turned to look at me with a creaky, rusted machinery-like movement. Sighing, I confirmed, what he said is true. The inheritance from my parents wasn't just money, it included several apartments and buildings. My parents were into real estate investments, and they always told me to study it since I would inherit it someday. So, while I am a housewife, I have rental income from these properties. Probably several times more than Tom's salary. Tom's mouth moved soundlessly, still in shock. Seeing his reaction, I was glad I hadn't told him about the inheritance. I had considered telling him at my parents' funeral but lost all inclination when he hurried off to have fun. Now, I could present it as the ultimate shock. I said to Tom, "By the way, about your misunderstanding that I was having an affair, the person I met that day was a lawyer. I'll be taking substantial alimony for cheating, so be prepared. Also, the demolition of this house starts next week. Make sure you move out by then." "Next week?" "Yes. By the way, didn't you notice? We've been gradually moving out the furniture and appliances. Didn't you realize?" "Oh." His reaction made it clear he never really cared about us. Leaving a stunned Tom in the living room, I urged my in-laws to return to their room. "Don't worry. I'll take care of the divorce papers." As I closed the living room door, I saw Tom collapse. I closed the door anyway. We did a small high-five outside the now-closed door. It was a sign of closure, but it wasn't over yet. The intercom rang loudly in the dark hallway. Instinctively, we all looked towards the entrance. The intercom rang incessantly with a shrill, persistent sound. Moreover, I could hear someone rattling the door. Could it be a burglar? I wondered. But then, "Hey, Tom! Open up! Didn't you see my message? My electricity is cut off. It's so cold I might die. I don't care if your wife is there, just let me in." The shrill voice of a woman echoed through the door. That voice. Unmistakably, it was Tom's mistress. Showing up at such an hour, utterly inconsiderate. But what else to expect from someone involved with a married man? Clearly, she only thought of herself. I sighed heavily and signaled to my in-laws that I would handle the situation. Then, I went back to the living room. Tom was staring at the intercom monitor, surprised by his mistress's sudden arrival. He was startled to see me return too. "Oh, this is... Looks like you have a visitor," I said. I grabbed Tom's arm, trying to make excuses, and dragged him to the front door. I opened the door, pushed Tom out, and quickly closed and locked it. "Hey! Open up! Let me in!" "Tom, you finally came out. But who was that just now, your wife? She looks so plain." "Hey, why are you here? I told you not to come near my house." "Because I don't know why, but my electricity got cut off. My heater won't work. Do you want me to freeze to death?" "I can't deal with this now. Angela, please. Open the door. I'll send her away right now." "What? Did you even listen to me? Please, Sally. Just go home for today. Here, I'll give you money for a hotel." Their loud conversation was clearly audible through the door. It was only a matter of time before the neighbors called the police. Then I remembered something important and returned to the intercom. "Hey, Tom." "Angela, just wait, Is that mistress's child really yours?" "What? What are you saying? Just because you're not loved by Tom, you don't have to lie." "No, it's not a lie. According to the detective agency, Sally, right? You've been dating multiple men, not just Tom, for several years." "What are you suddenly saying? What do you mean? You said for sure it's my child." "Well, it seemed like the timing was right." "Timing? You admit there are other men. That's..." Their argument intensified with my revelation. Soon, the sound of police sirens reached my ears. My father-in-law nodded at me, holding his smartphone. Apparently, he had called the cops. The two were still arguing loudly as the police arrived and took them away. Such a disturbance. I felt suddenly exhausted. "I'll submit the divorce papers first thing tomorrow morning." I thought this as I explained the situation to the police. The next day, following my resolution from the previous night, I submitted the divorce papers to the municipal office. Then, the day to demolish my in-laws' house arrived quickly. Surprisingly, Tom moved out before us, apparently crashing at his mistress's place. I was curious about the paternity of the child in question, but well, it didn't matter anymore. We too moved out of the house filled with memories. About a month later, I received an unexpected call from Tom. Despite my instruction to communicate through a lawyer, I answered the persistent ringing. "Hello? Angela, please, I need your help." "Yes?" I asked, startled by Tom's sudden cry for help. Then, he dropped a bombshell. "My house has burned down." "What?" He explained that after moving to his mistress's apartment, he accidentally started a fire due to a careless cigarette. I was surprised to hear that Tom had started smoking. Perhaps he began after our divorce? Surprised by the fire, Tom fled, leaving his mistress and child behind. As a result, the mistress suffered facial burns, and the child had complications from smoke inhalation. Moreover, they were homeless now and faced a claim for damages from the landlord. Well, it was a logical consequence. "Please, Angela, you're the only one I can turn to. You own apartments, right? Please, let me, Sally, and the child stay in one. We need a place to live." Is this what they mean by audacity? I can't help but be impressed. "I could let you stay," I said, and Tom's voice mixed surprise with joy. "Really?" But then, I brought him back to reality. "But I doubt you'd pass the screening, and with alimony and damage payments, I don't think you can afford the rent for my apartments." "So, no." "But why not? We were married, weren't we? You could help a little." "We were married, now we're strangers. And did you ever help me? I'm hanging up now. Goodbye." Later, I heard through the grapevine that Tom had to borrow money to pay alimony and damages. His mistake with the fire spread as a rumor, forcing him to quit his job. Now, he's juggling multiple part-time jobs to repay loans and cover the continuous expenses. The mistress, sustaining burns, clung to him, demanding treatment costs for herself and the child. As for me, I used my funds and the money from selling the land where my in-laws' house stood to remodel one of my apartments into a barrier-free residence for seniors. With this, I believe my in-laws can now live much more comfortably and securely than before. It was my selfish wish to keep living with my in-laws, who were initially planning to enter a facility as Tom had suggested. It was my wish to continue living with my in-laws. When I expressed my desire to continue living with them, they were moved to tears of joy. Our relationship has evolved beyond in-laws. We are a new family, planning to live together harmoniously.